Hello, and I hope you're well. Monday the 22nd. Did you ever hear of Checkpoint Charlie? It was a very common feature in films, spy films, years ago. After the Second World War, of course, communism took over in much of Eastern Europe, and Berlin itself was divided between the communist East and the free West. A wall was built dividing that city, and at various points along the wall there were checkpoints, and one of the most famous, if not the most famous, was what became known as Checkpoint Charlie. Communism was that ideology based on an atheistic view of the human person, flatly opposed by the church. And indeed the church and the churches suffered greatly under communism and Marxism. There was a remark of Stalin once, "How many divisions has the Pope?" But of course the Pope's power was not based on military force, rather on the power of the Holy Spirit. In 1979, when Pope John Paul made a historic 9-day pilgrimage to his own country of Poland, standing in Victory Square, he prayed to a hushed crowd of immense size on that day, "Let the Spirit descend and renew the face of the earth." And he said it again, "Let the Spirit descend and renew the face of the earth." Eventually, of course, the wall came down. His own country had been under the communist rule, but all began to change when people began to believe that the Spirit was with them and was breaking down walls. And you and I, we can all have walls in our hearts, walls in our families, walls in our communities. We ask the Holy Spirit to break down those walls which separate us from God, those walls which separate us from our families perhaps, those walls which separate us from friends, which have been built up over the years by indifference and perhaps even hatred. So we ask the Holy Spirit to break down those walls. Yes, it can be done. We ask the Holy Spirit to melt the frozen and warm the chill, so that the breath and the fire and the love of God's Holy Spirit will renew us, will break down any barrier between us and God, any barrier between us and family, any barrier between us and friends and community members. So come, Holy Spirit, and fill the hearts of your faithful and renew the face of the earth. Checkpoint Charlie was dismantled in 1990, 30 years ago on this day.